What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Niners Nation Instant Reaction podcast. I am Rob Stats Guerrera here with Javi Vega, and oh man, the Niners defense just put the clamps down on the New Orleans Saints. Niners get the 13-0 shutout win. We are going to break down all of it. We'll take your questions, your comments, everything. We just want to remind you first, please rate, review, and follow the Niners Nation Podcast Network. And also, shout out to Homage. I got my shirt on, as you can see.
It's a nice one.
Niners gear in the business. It's different than the stuff you see on NFL.com and anywhere else. It's really cool. If you want to look at it yourself, maybe buy some Christmas presents, whatever, there's a link in the description of this on YouTube, and it'll be there in the podcast as well. Javi, what a job interview, so to speak, for D'Amico Ryans today.
Yeah, absolutely. 332 games since the Saints have been shut out. Since 2001, the Saints have not been shut out. That's the longest active streak, and it got broke today by the 49ers and this 49ers defense, who literally the Saints were knocking on the door of scoring several times in today's game. You have the fumble late in the game that was created by Hufanga, after Greenlaw stands him up. And then you have this really great fourth down stand, and Nick Bosa got away with one. He was offsides, but
yeah, he was.
I will take it, and I will continue to hold strong on my bet with a buddy of mine who's a Cowboys fan. Him and I have a Micah Parsons versus Nick Bosa sack total bet, and we're pacing each other right now pretty darn good. But what a performance. 49ers defense showed out pretty well. They looked a little sluggish to start, but once they settle in, they settle in. Offensively, we'll get to the offense, but defensively, that was a masterclass by D'Amico Ryans and Fred Warner, who is having an all-pro season. It's going pretty much underrated. All he needs now is a couple of interceptions to kind of seal the deal to get Defensive Player of the Year, nominations and, consideration, in my opinion.
He was amazing. Hufanga was amazing, flying all around. The defense was just championship level, right? This is championship level. Your offense is sluggish, right? Coming back from Mexico City, they just did not look right. Then Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt in the game. Elijah Mitchell is hurt. We don't know for how long. That's a major thing. Spencer Burford gets hurt in this game. Christian McCaffrey is hurt in this game. And it looked like Kyle Shanahan just wanted to get the hell out of Dodge in the third quarter. He looked like he was just trying to run out the clock. He wanted to protect Jimmy, I think. He just wanted to get out of there. And their offense was hideously bad in the second half. And this defense just said, we got you, and put the team on their back. And three times the Saints were at the 4-yard line. They were at the 6-yard line. They were at the 30-yard line. They got 0 points out of those possessions. This is an all-world defensive performance today. And I always want to start with the positive when the 49ers win. So that's why I want to give the defense all their flowers.
Yeah, absolutely. Defensively, they were outstanding. This team still misses Eric Armstead, but they held their own, excuse me, in the past game. Olave is Olave. He's a pretty good player. But Fongo's flying everywhere. Fred Warner, again, I can't say enough about what he did today, especially in those goal line situations where they're driving, they're trying to get in there. He broke up 2 passes. He diving all over the place. He had the fumble early in the game. Just from safety on down to the defensive line, they're playing really, really good complementary football on defense. They're just playing off each other. I didn't see anything today that just made me, scratch my head like, oh, what the hell was that? But they played pretty sound all the way through, and they kind of confused Andy Dalton a couple times there because they could have got him on a couple picks. They could have did a whole bunch more. They could have made it worse for the Saints. But, they are this is a championship level defense, and I think they put the league on notice these last 4 weeks. 4 straight games of no points in the second half. And this one, there was no points all game. So shout out to the 49ers defense to completing a full game of, no points. So that's 6 straight quarters of no points. To your point about Kyle Shanahan in the second half, I think, yeah, you saw the offense. They started sluggish. They started slow. And you don't want to keep getting these injuries pile up. You're getting healthy. So if you can avoid it,
they were getting healthy.
Yeah, CMC gets banged up. That's a lot of picks you sent for him. So let's make sure he's straight. And then Elijah Mitchell goes down. They said his head was down, and the team came around him. So hopefully it's nothing major, but it did not look good. Jordan Mason looked good in his playing time today. And then
yes, he did.
For injury, thank God for Brunskill. who struggled early on in the game, but kind of solidified it towards the back end of it. So, I mean, they have depth pieces, but this is part of why I didn't like trading for Jeff. We're trading away Jeff Wilson, but the Niners can survive. Ty Davis Price still exists, and Jordan Mason is he looks
And
like
it looked good. Jordan Mason looked good in the game.
Yeah, he looks solid. He was playing. He was running hard, rushing. You know, he's got a burst to him that we haven't seen yet. You know, if those lanes were to open up, he probably takes off. Um, he's physical. He doesn't go down on first contact.
Yep.
So that's a plus for the Niners. So they have backs. I think they're comfortable with continuing with, let's just say it is CMC, TDP, and then you have no, you know, you still have Tevin Coleman on the practice squad, and then of course Jordan Mason.
He'll be up.
So they'll be fine. Yeah. So if
he'll be up over TDP next week.
Yeah, or yeah, he might be up. Oh, he might be up over TDP if Mitchell has to miss next week. I don't think Mitchell's. I hope Mitchell doesn't have to miss, and hopefully we'll get a report here soon on what happened with him. But offensively, it was just a struggle, and I think this week it was just a weird week, right? You have all this travel, Thanksgiving, and practices were all weird. The defense did their job, but offensively, you know how this offense is. They sputter. Partially because their quarterback, partially because their guys drop passes, partially because you have holding penalties, Mike McGlinchey, and stupid mistakes by your center. Things happen on this offense that should not happen with a team this talented.
Flint7785, thanks for the super chat on the YouTube page. Love the defensive effort. Offense was clearly out of sync, but Warner and the boys made it happen. Yeah, look, they said at the beginning of the broadcast they didn't take a live rep on offense till Friday.
There you go.
Which Kyle Shanahan had never done before in his career. They were trying to avoid the letdown. And we've seen it with this team when they go out east, when they travel, when they have big travel, they usually have a letdown. They try to go out early. They usually do things to mitigate it with the week that they go out. But then the week that they come back, it's got to hit you somewhere. Either hits you on the way there or the way back. It generally hits the Niners on the way back. And I think we saw the effect of that this week. But the Saints defense also got a lot of guys back, and they are a good defense. Kyle Shanahan said, I thought this was a little tweak to his defense too. Kyle Shanahan told the Fox crew in the production meeting that he said, when they're healthy, the Saints defense is the best defense in the league. And I was like, oh, really, Kyle? But maybe he was trying to, tweak him a little bit. It worked if he was. But the Saints are a good defense, and they got after Jimmy Garoppolo today.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised by the Saints' defensive performance. You get Cameron Jordan back. Paulson Adebo's playing really good football that no one really pays attention to because the Saints stink. If Marcus Lattimore was healthy, then you really have a really solid secondary. Tyrann Mathieu, he still has a little bit left in the tank. Their safeties are really good. And Demario Davis is he's as good as Fred Warner. He might be, one step slower than Fred, but Davis is no joke. So they have players on that defensive line, Marcus Davenport. And then their interior defensive line is solid. You saw that earlier in the game with Brunskill being basically put on his ass most of the first half, playing against these guys, versus the run. I know the Saints are getting up a lot of yards in the run game, but this is where I think I get frustrated with a lot of fans. Are like, why don't the Niners just run? These teams are doing these penny fronts. If you looked at it, if you watched it, there was 5 down linemen. You have a down on the line of scrimmage. Now you got 6 versus 5.
Yep.
And somebody's going to be free, and these lanes aren't opening up. The Elijah Mitchell early game run where he got to the edge, that's where he was literally stopping the backfield and then bounced it back out. That's what these defenses are doing now. They're not allowing these offensive linemen to combo block on them either direction. So that way you don't have these outside zones where they were hitting 2 years ago or even last year. So this is where you see a lot of the inside stuff from the Niners recently. And it's an adjustment from both sides. The defense adjusted to the outside zone, and then the offense has to adjust back with these counters in on the inside, and then of course the fact of Deebo Samuel possibly being able to run the ball. Now you have CMC out there. There's a couple missed opportunities early in the game. CMC is wide open for a touchdown. You had some lanes that were could have been hit better by Elijah Mitchell. We all know Mitchell was not the greatest as far as a guy with vision, but this is kind of what I expect. I mean, we texted earlier on today. I thought this game would be closer than it needed to be. I figured, the line was 9.5. They covered whatever, but I didn't expect a blowout or anything like that. I didn't expect the Niners to do another 38-10 performance.
Yep.
I expected something like 20-13 or whatever it was, but it ended up being 13-0, and I'll take it. A win's a win in this league. They don't come easy. 4 wins in a row. They're 7-4. They're in first place. Now we got to hope that the Seahawks lose. I don't think they are losing, but I didn't check.
So I'm just looking now. No, they lost. The Raiders won in overtime, 40-34. Forget the tiebreaker, baby. The Niners stand alone in the NFC West. Shout out to Glass City. Thanks for the super chat. How many games can this offense look woefully unprepared? I'm sick of the injuries, dude. Jimmy is shook now that D is the rock that holds the wall up. Say this about the defense. Other than the Chiefs game, and really it was one bad half against the Chiefs, because in the first half it was like a 13-10 game, something like that. Other than that game against the greatest quarterback of this generation and the greatest offensive mind of his generation, this defense has brought it every single week. They have like one bad drive a game, and it's usually the first drive. And other than that, they have been the rock upon which this season is built. Don't forget, the 49ers are still going out there with their backup quarterback. Everybody forgets that, but he was the backup quarterback going into the year. This defense is unbelievable. We had said we thought it was maybe Kyle's best defense going into the year, and it sure looks like it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. This defense is probably the best it's been since Kyle's taken over. Of course, you're still missing Armstead, and you're missing Kinlaw. I'm not counting on Kinlaw. I'm expecting Armstead back next week. But I'd like to push back on his comment on Jimmy being shook. Jimmy got his ass kicked today.
He got beat down.
Humble, and he stood in there. He made some throws while getting hit. Did he make the one boneheaded throw? Yes. Thank God there was a penalty. Other than that, he's playing smart. I don't buy this narrative that he's shook. I don't buy this narrative that, he's I don't know, man. I'm just not. Look, I've been critical of Jimmy. Rob, you've known this for years, and I'm not the biggest Jimmy Garoppolo fan. But what we're seeing right now from a Jimmy Garoppolo is a smarter football player. He's not making the mistakes that we killed him for, taking dumb sacks, throwing the interceptable ball, throwing the interception, throwing these ducks to the sidelines. Like, he's putting some zip on these balls. He knows where to go. He's going through his progressions. When's the last time you've seen a 49ers quarterback with the little where the over, I don't know what it's called in the TV world, but they had the little, I don't know if you remember Madden where they had like the QB vision where it's boom, boom, boom.
The cone. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the cone. When's the last time you've seen that from Jimmy Garoppolo? They showed him do it, right? We saw it in the Arizona game. We saw it in the Chargers game. We've seen it in the Rams game. He's going through his progression. He's getting more comfortable. The offensive line is playing very, very well outside of a couple bad snaps. And Jimmy's playing good football. It's okay to say these things, even though you've been critical of him before. You don't have to stand in this position of, oh, no, I don't think Jimmy's good. I was probably the first guy to say it on my podcast originally that Jimmy couldn't throw the ball downfield. This is 2019. We're in the middle of 8-0 run, right? I said him. I got pushed back a lot on my podcast for that, but you can pivot with new information. He looks like a better quarterback. Now, is he the same guy? Yes. Last week he was 18 of 23 with under 9 air yards, 4 of 4 from behind the line of scrimmage. You saw a lot of that same stuff today, but he's smarter about it. Again, we're not getting these dumb, boneheaded plays from Jimmy Garoppolo, and that's a plus. And sometimes that's all we ever really needed from him. Right? What's the likelihood of him getting to double-digit interceptions now? We have 6 games to go.
Don't you dare say. Don't challenge Jimmy like that, Avi.
I don't see it coming. If he ends up with 9 interceptions and 25 touchdowns, you take it.
Oh yeah, of course, 100%.
He's 16-4 right now.
And I'll say this about Jimmy Garoppolo. In the first half, he was 20 of 28, 175 yards and a touchdown. And he was the only source of offense. They could not run the ball at all. They had 13 carries for 44 yards in the first half, which is 3.4 yards per carry. That is crazy. That was the most pass attempts Jimmy Garoppolo has ever had in the first half in his career. And it was the third most pass attempts in the first half by any 49ers quarterback in the last 31 years, Javi. So that's like, they needed Jimmy today. Last week, he was 20 of 29 in the game. This week, he was 20 of 28 in the first half.
Yeah, he was their offense in the first half. And you have to give him credit for that. Like, whether you want to admit it or not, he was your offense. He made a couple of nice throws. He had and I think the biggest part with Jimmy Garoppolo is the third down stuff, right? Last year we had a big complaint about his third down. Well, not the team as a whole, was, anything over 3rd and 6, they were screwed. Now they're able to get these 3rd and 6s, or 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 13. Like, there was a throw in the early second half, in the early first half, where it was 3rd and 12 or 3rd and 13. He gets 12 of it. Right. Yep. And then they get the first down. Like, and I was thinking of you went for it on the goal line and they didn't get it.
Yes.
I was like, Rob is probably standing on his couch screaming, "Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Kyle," because your defense can hold them anyway. So, but I think the biggest thing here is, yes, Jimmy's playing good football. He's not an elite quarterback. I think we all know that. We can forget about that, but he's playing right now like a guy who can lead this team into the playoffs and make a run. I'm not saying he's going to be the reason why things happen. I'm not going to say that he's going to light it up, but he's playing smart, efficient football, and he's doing literally what I've asked him to do for the last 3 years. Check down the ball, throw it away, don't take the sacks. Play some secondary, have some secondary moves, second reaction plays. He did that again. He kind of scrambled out of the pocket, went near the line of scrimmage, threw a really good ball. It was incomplete, but the fact that he's doing these things is a big difference. He had one where he rolled out to his right. I think it was to Ayuk. He got it to Ayuk. He looks comfortable, and I'm happy about it. There's no reason for you to be unhappy about it as a Niner fan, because I see that too much on Twitter. Everyone's bitching about it. It's like, dude, he's here for a year. It is what it is. Just take it. This is what we have. It is what it is. And I do agree with the comment here. Yeah, trying to run a 4th and goal with him. They were running a pass play. Nothing was open. I would have rather gone with a toss.
Like that was not the plan. Yeah. They didn't say, Jimmy, run it in and save us. Like he clearly had one read. He looked, it was, I think it might've been Juice. I'm not sure. And maybe Ayuk on a fade, and it was covered. And so he tried to make something out of it. You're not going to get all of those on 4th down, but I loved it. You're right, Javi. I was tweeting about it. I was jumping up and down. Kyle went for it twice on 4th down in this game. He got it once. He didn't get it the second time. And that's what I was said afterwards too. What was the big scary thing that happened, right? The 49ers turned it over on downs. Oh no. So the Saints got the ball back, and what happened? Nothing.
Thank God for a bullshit DPI on that drive too, because Lenore he's not holding Olave or pass interfering Olave on the sideline. There was a safety, should have been 2 points for the Niners because the hands to the face that was in the end zone, but whatever. The refs were terrible. I don't like complaining about the refs, but they were bad today.
Yeah, they were.
They were absolute. There was 4 straight plays with penalties. Like, what is that? Let's play football. There were so many ticky-tack calls, bunch of nonsense, especially the defensive pass interference and some of these holding calls. The holding call on Kittle. Are you serious?
I understood that because his arm was extended. When his arm is extended, they call it every time.
But you can see there's like space between the arm and Kittle's hands. Like there's nothing there.
Flint 7785 says Jimmy's playing his best ball, but he's not the key to getting number 6. We know what he is. Well, he kind of is the key to getting number 6. Like he touches the ball on every play, but look, I mean, if the 49ers have their way, they don't want him to have to win then the game. But you talked about it. The Saints were clearly playing to make Jimmy Garoppolo win the game for the Niners, just like the Cardinals did last week. Vance Joseph told the broadcast crew last week, we want Jimmy Garoppolo to be the reason the 49ers beat us. And if you look at how the Saints played the Niners, it was the same thing. All the guys in the screen, right? That's what we talked about. Every defender is in the screen for the Saints at the start of the play because they were coming after Jimmy. They got a lot of pressure on him early. Like we talked about, multiple hits. I didn't actually see if I can check the actual box score real quick to see how many quarterback hits the Saints were credited with. Spoiler alert, it was a lot. And Jimmy did enough, and thank God for that penalty, like you said, because if that interception that he threw stood, it would have changed the entire game. But you know what? That happens. That we've seen it work the other way, where the Niners had some plays called back because of a penalty, and it was one bad throw from Jimmy Garoppolo, and it didn't count. And so the Niners get the win. And they didn't play their best ball today. And you know what? The best teams win when they don't play their best. And not only did they win, they pitched a shutout.
Yeah, completely. I was just looking at Twitter. So NFL and CBS just tweeted this out about 10 minutes ago. 49ers defensive ranks, points per game, first. Yards per game, first. Rush yards per game, first. Yards per rush, first. First downs per game, first. Passing TDs, first. You know what was wild, though? The broadcast mentioned that the Niners are like one of the on defense.
Worst on third and short.
Yeah, like that. I was thinking to myself, man, that could bite you in the ass come playoff times.
Yeah, according to the broadcast, the 49ers give up third and short 78% of the time, which is wild. That is something
That's
the Niners
only
have to get.
Negative is like, okay,
yeah.
All right, I guess I can live with that.
Right. I mean, look, sorry they can't be amazing at every single aspect of playing football. Like, sorry. By the way, the Saints had 6 quarterback hits today, if you're keeping
Yeesh.
track.
Felt like more. It really did feel like more. He
Yeah.
took some late hits too. The late hit, I really thought his knee was. I thought he was cooked right there when he took the late.
Yep.
I was like, oh
And
my god, there's a season. Trey's throwing pregame. I was like, is he back? Can we make him? Can we put some voodoo on his ankle? Figure it out. But Jimmy. I give Jimmy a lot of credit for today's performance. It wasn't the greatest, but he stood in there, took a beating.
that did flash through my mind, by the way, because Jimmy gets hurt and he was gimpy afterwards. Like, even they handed the ball off and he tried to do the, where he continues the play and fakes like he still has the ball, and he could not do it. And I literally was like, oh my God, is Jimmy Garoppolo going to get hurt on the first game after Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are both asked this week about Trey Lance coming back, and they both say he's not coming back? Like, that would be just incredible drama for the 49ers if Jimmy gets hurt and then Trey has to come back again at the end of the year.
Oh my God.
Just take a deep breath, everybody. We are not out of the woods yet. Even no matter what Kyle Shanahan says after the game, we all know the day after game conference call is when we really find out about the injuries. So let's not just assume that Jimmy's okay just because he finished this one out. Chris Maldonado on the YouTube page, thanks for the super chat. Do you think Eric Armstead comes back Sunday? Javi, you said earlier you think he does.
Yeah, I think he does. They were saying he was close this week. He was on the inactive list, and they said he was. Well, we saw video this week. He was practicing. The expectation is him versus Miami. I would expect him to see probably 50% of the snaps. I wouldn't rush him back either from plantar fasciitis, because you have guys like Ridgeway who's playing really well. This T.Y. McGill kid played pretty darn good today too, number 96. Yeah, he did. So they have a good rotation. It would be nice to get him back there on your early downs, first and second down, to help create longer second and third downs for the defense to tee off. And it's going to help Bosa out. Bosa's numbers have kind of come down on these QB hits and the pressures without Armstead being around. And I love Bosa. I think he's a really good player.
Yep.
Like every great defensive lineman, he needs his Robin. And if Armstead is his Robin, that's a really good Robin to have back. So that's going to be a plus. I mean, 1 sack for the 49ers today, that is not normal. Their sack numbers have gone down quite a bit. They need to get Armstead back. They need to get Kinlaw back. But most importantly, I think Armstead is the key that unlocks this defense going forward, when you can go back to your NASCAR package with Bosa, Armstead, Jackson, and Ibukum. That's going to help them out a lot.
Yeah, and I was surprised that the Niners were not able to get as much pressure on Andy Dalton as I thought they would in the game. And I thought that, especially in the second half, I was like, you know what? I think the Niners defense is going to eat. The Saints ran 21 plays in the first half. They ended up with 53 in the game. So that's 32 plays in the second half. That's a lot of plays. And I think the Niners defense, look, we talked about it. They stood up. They got the pressure when they needed it. Bosa got the sack when he needed it. I know he was offsides, but whatever, they didn't call it. And I've said it's about Bosa. He is good in the biggest moments when you really need to make a play. And not only was he good on that fourth down play with the sack, one of the plays beforehand, he got pressure on Dalton that forced him to throw the ball. He rises up when the Niners defense needs him the most. And the whole offense is geared to stop him. And the fact that he can still do it, he deserves a ton of credit in my mind. And he absolutely deserves to be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, Tracy Sandler, 49ers beat. Kyle Shanahan said that it's possible Elijah Mitchell has a MCL sprain, but not as serious as the one he suffered earlier in the season. So then I'm not going to expect him to play next week versus Miami, if I had to guess.
No. He will not be up.
But to your point about Defensive Player of the Year for Nick Bosa, the Niners have 2 Defensive Player of the Year candidates on their team. That is cheating. You have Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. You can't say enough about Nick. And to me, it's between Parsons and Bosa. Those are the 2. They're headed for a tie at the end of the year on the Defensive Player of the Year. So we'll see how this goes. But I need Nick to have one of those 2-3 sack games, force a fumble, just completely take over a game. We haven't seen that yet from Nick. We haven't seen it from him since the 2019 season. That Carolina game was the one. So hopefully he has one of those coming up. Miami's offensive line isn't the greatest. Armstead went out this week with a pec injury. Maybe that's the week. Seattle, we might be able to get those rookies. They're looking a little sluggish up there in Seattle. I need Nick to have a 2-3 sack game and, cement it for the rest of the league, because he's not getting enough discussion nationwide.
It's funny. I was talking about this with Michelle on Friday. Niners actually have 3 players in the Defensive Player of the Year odds on DraftKings. They have Bosa, they have Warner, and they have Hufanga, who actually has better Defensive Player of the Year odds than Aaron Donald. How about that?
Well, the Rams stink, so there's
Yeah.
that. Look, I'm not the biggest Hufanga guy. I wasn't, and I literally have one complaint with Hufanga, and it's I wish he would tackle better because he had separated shoulder issues in college and concussion issues in college. He likes to throw his shoulder and his head at everybody. Just wrap somebody up, dude. That'd be great if you just did that. Protect yourself. And that's me thinking of his health and safety. His play has been really, really good. What a play at the goal line today.
Oh,
This defense has a lot of pride. You don't think they know they haven't held teams to no points for 3 straight games? They want to keep it 4 straight.
oh yeah.
He's flying to a Kamara and knocks that ball out, and boom, no points again for the Saints offense. The Niners offense could have helped the defense out because I felt like they were out there a lot. But time of possession, the Niners won the time of possession today. They won. Time of possession was for the Niners was 34 minutes and 50 seconds, or it's 25-10, which is mind-boggling considering all I thought was the Niners defense. Niners defense was on the field a lot, so it's insane to have 3 players on the team with Defensive Player of the Year odds on DraftKings.
It's ridiculous. I want to address this because I've seen some people were tweeting about it. Sarah Webb on the YouTube page commented, she's not alone in this thought. Would be nice to have Jeff Wilson Jr. And let me just say, first of all, Jeff Wilson Jr. asked to be traded. Second of all, they have Christian McCaffrey. They had Elijah Mitchell. They have Jordan Mason. They had Ty Davis Price. They have Tevin Coleman. Damn, man. If you think the season comes down to Jeff Wilson Jr., the Niners have bigger problems if that's the case.
Exactly.
Come on.
Oh, and Deebo Samuel can run the ball. So
yeah,
I get it. Jeff Wilson is a guy that the locker room really, really like, but when you trade for a guy like CMC, someone's going to lose touches, and it was going to be him because Elijah Mitchell was coming back. Okay, cool. Mitchell gets hurt today, so then Jeff Wilson could have gotten touches next week. But Jeff Wilson got hurt today too in Miami. Did we forget that? Did he finish the game? Yeah, but he got banged up too. So, and I like Jeff Wilson. I didn't like that they traded him, but he asked for that trade. The Niners didn't want to give him away. They've said it. But a 5th-round pick for a guy that you had as an undrafted free agent, that is good value. That is a good flip of a player and a prospect to get an asset back. So they did what they had to do in that situation. I wish Jeff Wilson all the best. Raheem Mostert, maybe not so much. He had a lot of shit to talk about with Ty Dunn's piece. I don't know if you saw that piece.
Oh, I saw it.
But yeah.
Sarah also did say that Jordan Mason looked good, which he did. Tom is America watching on my Twitch page. Shout out to you. Shout out to everybody on my Twitch page at Stats on Fire. Please follow me. I just started it. I need some followers. Jeff Wilson is a nice player. Yes, but everything Wilson provides can be done by Jordan Mason and or Tevin Coleman. I totally agree. I think that he is a fine player, Jeff Wilson, but he's nothing special. And if you can't find another running back as good as Jordan Mason, then that's a real problem. Somebody else wanted to know, Kent watching on the Facebook page, is Christian McCaffrey hurt? Yes, he is. He tried to stay in the game. I think the fact that Jordan Mason got touches at the end proves that McCaffrey is nursing something. I think with his left knee, they said on the broadcast, he did not play early in the 3rd quarter because he just wasn't quite right. And I think that contributed to a lot of what we saw in the second half with the offense, Javi, where it was just, it wasn't what we've seen recently from the Niners. It was very conservative to me. It was very scared, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was very conservative. CMC getting dinged up going into the tunnel before half. It matters. I mean, did he finish the game? Yeah, he finished the game. He came in literally after they mentioned his knee issue, and then he came in and he had a 10-yard gain. Then he had another 8 yards. So I mean, he looks fine. I'm sure he'll just get some rehab this week. He's going to play next week. I don't think it's that big of an issue. If it was, they would have kept him out. They wouldn't have risked it at all. And with the game kind of in hand at the final 2 drives for the Niners, Jordan Mason's going to get those touches. And Jordan Mason ran hard, so I don't see that as a big issue. We'll see come Wednesday when they actually come out with their full report and who's practicing, who's not. I wouldn't expect CMC to get a full load in practice.
Yep.
Just because that's what they're probably going to do. There's been a lot of travel. That's a big. The thing is that the other part about the travel is they did spend that entire week in Denver too. They've been gone for a while and they finally got back. So I think you'll see a much better showing from this offense next week versus Miami.
Well, let's talk about that really quick because I've been screaming it and I keep trying to tell people and with the Raheem Mostert and the Jeff Wilson stuff that came out before the game, and we can get to that. Everyone's going to be all hyped up for Miami. Oh, it's Miami game. Miami, you got Mike McDaniel and Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson and Wes Welker and all these former 49ers that are now there. And Bradley Chubb faced the Niners earlier this year and they did really well. And now he's on the Dolphins. This Dolphins game does not matter that much, especially with what happened. The entire NFC West lost today except the 49ers. This is an AFC game, okay? Would it be nice to win? Of course, but it is not nearly as big a game as it will be billed by the media all week long. It's an AFC game. It doesn't matter. And if Mike McDaniel gets the win over Kyle Shanahan, whatever, who cares? It's not nearly as important as the game against Tampa Bay, the game against Seattle, the game against the Washington Commanders that's coming up. All of those games are infinitely more important than the Miami game, Javi, no matter what Raheem Mostert says, who missed the game today again, by the way.
Yeah, it's do you want the win? Absolutely, because you do not want to. Look, I want the win because I'm tired of the Niners straddling this line of like, their margin of error is always so thin. Let's get to 8-4. Can we do that? Can we just do that? That'd be great, right? So that way you give yourself some more breathing room and potentially can work your way into maybe the second seed going forward. Because I would like for them to have the second seed because I'm not certain Philly's going to be there at the end of it. You know what I mean? If you're at second seed, then you're going to get the home NFC title game, right? I don't think the Niners are going to get the number 1 seed, but let's fight for that second seed. Win every game that you can. I think that's what they're going to do. Do I think the Miami game is that important? No, but I think long-term seeding wise, it has some value because I'm not truly bought in on Philadelphia all the way like I thought I was. So that's going to help the Niners. The stuff with, in the Raheem Mostert thing, he's hurt again. I get it. The guy's he's had knee issues all his career, so we'll see what happens with him next week. But there's gonna be a high energy game with Does McDaniels. I would like to see Kyle still be dominant against his guys that were beneath him.
Of course,
step out of the floor. He kind of owns McVay. He beat Stefanski when he was in Cleveland. Was this did he beat Stefanski or was that
honestly I can't remember off the top of my head.
Either way, as long as he's beating his guys, that'd be that to me. I think Kyle wants to have that over McDaniels if he could. So I want them to get to 8-4. I'm just tired of this team always having this very slim margin for error come playoff time because, okay, cool, you lose that one next week, and then you got Tampa. You beat Tampa, and then Seattle's won 2 in a row, and now you have to go to Seattle, and then it gets dicey. And I don't want it to get dicey. Can we not get dicey late in the season? That'd be great.
Yes, I totally agree. By the way, the Seahawks lost on an 86-yard walk-off touchdown run. How do you like that? In Seattle, too. So how do you like that, 12s? Just want to throw that out there. By the way, news is coming in. Tracy Sandler said, Kyle Shanahan said after the game, Spencer Burford's ankle injury is thought to be a lateral injury, not a high ankle sprain, which is better. That's actually better news than a high ankle sprain, so that's good. We talked about the Mitchell sprained ACL. Debo had a quad contusion that he fought through apparently during the game. So the Niners are banged up. And again, that's another reason to stack these wins wherever you can get them. Because like you said, they may be, it may not be full throttle every week. Niners scoring 38 points the rest of the way. Sometimes, guys go down, you got to adjust, but they're banged up big time.
And get ready. The line is out. Niners are 3.5-point favorites. At home.
Wow. Well, with 3, okay, they're at home, so 3.5 actually. It's pretty much a push, yeah, because you get 3 points for being at home. Miami looked amazing again today. I mean, they were benching starters in the third quarter, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Today's a good day for the 49ers. I wish the Commanders lost. That would have been ideal, but you didn't play your best. It was a perfect spot for a letdown game, especially with all the Miami stuff coming next week. And even though you didn't play your best, turns out, Javi, when your defense doesn't give up a point, you win.
Yeah, and you don't turn the ball over on offense, you win. This is a good recipe for success for the 49ers recently. No turnovers, solid defensive play, efficient quarterback play, and a head coach who wants to take a few risks here and there down the field and in the red zone. Who would have thought? Things that we've talked about for years that let's do these things, and they have the team to do it. Now they just have to continue it, and that's the hard part. Continuing this, can they win 5 in a row? Are they going to win 5 in a row? If they win 5 in a row, this team's going to get a lot of hype going into the playoffs, and they're going to be like, okay, here come the Niners. But this is a team that no one really wants to play to begin with, because I truly believe this 49ers defense is the best in football, and it's not very close. I don't believe in the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to do some digging on that stuff with their sack totals, because I'm not buying it on who they've played on offense versus that defense. I have a bunch of Cowboy fans. I make sure to find some hole to discredit their success because I can't stand them. But yeah, no, I think the 49ers defense is best in football. And this offense I think is going to finish in the top 10. I just need a little bit more out of George Kittle. And it's not even just Kittle. I wish Jimmy would target him a little bit more, especially in a game like today when you needed to keep the defense fresher, right? You're getting these 3 and outs, your 3 and outs. The Niners had 12 3 and outs on the season, and then they had like 4 today, 3 today. That's, for an offense as powerful as this is, you should be able to, stay on the field 4, 5, 6 minutes. That would, even if you're not going to score, give your defense some breathing room.
The Niners had 4 possessions in the second half today. It went field goal, punt, end of game. Now, granted, end of game was 11 plays, 46 yards. So that they grinded it out on that possession to run out the clock. But you've got to be better than that in the second half. And they couldn't even burn a clock. At one point, it was 3 plays and out, 90 seconds. Like in a 13-0 game, you're hoping at least we could get some first downs and move the ball down the field.
Yeah.
But it just didn't materialize. Brandon Ayuk, again, 5 catches, 65 yards in the game, had a 27-yarder. I think he also had a 20-yarder. The Niners had some big plays. Debo had a 20-yard play. Juwan Jennings had a 13-yard play. Like, they were popping a couple big plays. They just couldn't convert and score actual touchdowns, which is going to be a thing, and it's definitely going to be a thing that they need to do next week against Miami, because guess what? You're probably not shutting out the Dolphins, and you're probably going to allow a point in the second half in that one. Just going out on a wild limb there.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill exists, and Jalen exists, and that's a good offense. They are very, very potent, and McDaniels knows this defense very, very well. That is going to be the chess match. Yes, Kyle versus McDaniel, but McDaniel versus D'Amico is the big one. I don't believe in the Dolphins defense. I think they can be had. They have a lot of holes at their linebacker position. Secondary is kind of questionable. But this 49ers defense versus that Miami offense is going to be the real test, the real test here. Back to the Brandon Ayuk thing, and I'm just looking at the 49ers as pass catchers. Are we going to get a 1,000-yard receiver this year?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
No.
Yeah. That's what
I don't think we will. It's crazy, but that's sort of the way the season is going. Who gets your game ball this week, Javi? I'll let you go first.
Fred Warner, hands down. Easy. It's probably the easiest thing you had to ask me today. Fred was outstanding. Outside of that one play where Olave, got that reception, Fred is literally one step behind him, and he's 6 inches away from knocking that ball away late in the game. He had the pass breakup in the end zone. He had the forced fumble early in the game. He lit up Alvin Kamara on the swing pass. He was everywhere. He had the well-timed blitz early on in the game where the Niners could have definitely, that could have ended up, getting to points at that point, but he well-timed blitz turned to 4th down, leads to a punt. Niners are off the field. Fred is Fred. He's him. That's what the kids say. He is him.
Brian Elliott, watching on the Facebook page, agrees with you. He gets his game ball. I want to give it to a player, even though D'Amico, as Jonathan Berry points out on the YouTube page, clearly deserves one.
True. Absolutely.
But yeah, I think that goes without saying. In terms of actual players, I'm giving it to Bosa, man. I know his numbers don't look good. 3 tackles in the game, 2 solo, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, 2 quarterback hits. But if you go back and watch the game, how many times he disrupts or influences or impacts a play, it shows up again and again and again. And like I said earlier, the whole Saints offensive game plan is geared towards stopping him, and he's still doing this. There was a play early in the game at one point. I think Dalton actually completed a big pass, or Hill, might have been Taysom Hill. And Bosa's face mask is getting grabbed. No call. Yeah. The holding penalties. No, so, like, if you want to complain, if you're a Saints fan complaining that he was offsides in that 4th down sack, okay. But guess what? There were like 6 other plays against Bosa that didn't get flagged. So shut up.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, he's offside, but I'll take it because, I'm not one to complain about the Bosa holding, but the one to the face mask, I was like, all right, man, we got to get some of these.
Yeah.
There was a couple where he was just literally just tied up by 2 guys. It's like, you're not going to call this? Like, what are you doing? at some point the NFL has to look into that. We've talked about this for 2 years now, that these guys are going to get hurt because you're holding them these ways and you're chipping them the way they're chipping them. Like, and this is across the board. I'm not talking specifically about Nick. It happens to Myles Garrett. It happens to Reddick in Philadelphia. It happens to Joey, his brother. It happens to Khalil. Like, you got to protect some of these guys too, because can he wreck the game? Sure, he can wreck the game, but at some point you got to protect these guys too, because Nick was getting held quite a bit, getting rolled up on. It's just, that's unnecessary stuff.
Jason, watching on the YouTube page, could we imagine what Bosa's stats would actually look like if he wasn't held every play?
He probably have 15 sacks by now, 15, 16 sacks.
It's wild. I keep talking about it every week because I'm so happy. The Bosa over-under for sacks going into the year was 11.75 on DraftKings. I could not bet that fast enough. He now has 11 sacks on the year. He's
1.5.
Yeah, so like, I don't know what DraftKings was thinking on that one, but I laugh all the way to the bank. It looks good. The Niners are rounding into form. And again, I know the offense wasn't good in the second half, and we talked about that, but damn, man, they still found a way to win. They can fix it next week. If your bad games are still wins, that's the mark of a good team. Shout out to Ern watching on the YouTube page. Hopefully the Niners don't share stats for you on next week's game. Every game is important. Might not be a season killer, but every game matters. I didn't say it doesn't matter, or I hope I didn't say that. What I meant was it doesn't matter as much as the media is going to make it seem like it matters. Yeah. That's what my point. And even if they lose, it doesn't matter as much as losing to an NFC team. That is my point, because, of course, conference record is a huge tiebreaker. Right now, the Cowboys have the best conference record in the league. They are 7-3. Niners are 6-2. Vikings are 6-2. And then it's the Eagles. And actually, Eagles are 5-1. Bucks are 5-2 against the NFC.
Wait, say that again. Bucks are 5-2.
Bucks are 5-2 against the NFC. Hopefully 5-3 after that. That's why I say, like, that game matters, because the Niners are going to play them. And by the way, Tristan Wirfs carted off the field today.
I saw that. Oh my gosh.
I think I saw something that said X-rays were negative, which of course is good for him. I'm not rooting for anybody to be hurt, but if he can't play, that'll be a factor in that game. But that's 2 weeks from now, so I don't want to get too wrapped up in that.
Yeah, so the Niners are the 3 seed, Philly 9-1, Minnesota 9-2, San Francisco 7-4, Tampa 5-6 or 6-6, right? Or no, they're 5-6.
The Bucks are 5-6.
Okay, yeah. So, and Cowboys 8-3, Giants 7-4. I don't believe in the Giants. I don't believe in the Cowboys. The only team that worries me, and this is, is because Tom Brady still exists, and that's what it is. But I think the best part about it is the point differential. Cowboys plus 92, the Eagles plus 80, and the Niners plus 76. Like the gap between these teams is pretty huge when these top 3 teams are playing well. I just don't believe in the Cowboys that much, and that's just me being probably a Cowboy hater, but I just don't really believe in them. I was looking at the point differentials between the AFC and the NFC. It's pretty insane to look at the AFC. The point differentials, 110 for the Bills, 83 for the Chiefs, 54 for the Bengals. Everyone in the top 7 has a plus point differential. In the NFC, it's it's only 5 teams with a point differential of higher than 5 points.
Wow.
The Vikings are higher. The Vikings have 5 points.
And the Giants are 7-4. They've been outscored this season.
Yeah, like what the hell is going on? So
yeah,
the NFC is weak, and the Niners have the defense to take advantage of every team in the NFC.
Al Sacco has a good tweet. Niners giving up just 15.7 points a game. The Niners have allowed more than 19 points just twice this year, and 16 points or less 8 times. 8 times. If you're going to give up that, if Brock Purdy's got to start a game, they still might win it.
They might. Nick Mullins won games. This is Nick Mullins 2.0 with Brock Purdy.
I know. And all these, all this talk, Mike, I was talking to Mike Silver when I interviewed him. He keeps saying how they love Brock Purdy so much, and, don't get over the what's that?
I'm going to believe them that they do, because they love Nick Mullins too.
Yeah, that's what I said to him. I was like, great. That doesn't mean he's good. They love Nick Mullins too. But whatever. Hopefully we don't have to worry about that. Jimmy Garoppolo's got a whole week. The Niners do not travel out of the Pacific time zone for the rest of the regular season. Everybody needs to heal up this week. That's going to be the job. Maybe they don't take another live rep till Friday next week. I don't know.
Please don't. Please practice Wednesday through Friday. Because you got to compete with that Miami offense. Hey, real quick. you brought it up. The Niners don't travel outside the Western time zone
Yep.
rest of the season. How big of a factor is that for this team?
I think it's big. Number one, if guys are injured, like we talked about, less plane ride time. I think that's a factor. They were talking about, was it Kinlaw's knee? It doesn't swell up if he has to fly. Not that I'm expecting him to come back this year, but
Yeah.
the pressure in the cabin when you're flying, that's a thing, man. So if you can minimize that, I do think it's a thing. Plus, now we're done with what we talked about, right? Oh, we had to take a trip here. Now we're sluggish coming back, and we have to adjust the whole week of practice schedule because of the time zone difference and the altitude difference and the holiday with Thanksgiving. We're past all that now. You can get locked into your routine. And I think that's huge because when this team is locked into their routine and they can get rolling, that's when you see them play their best.
Yeah. So the Niners finish up Miami, Tampa, Seattle, Washington, the Raiders, and then the Cardinals. How do they finish?
Ooh.
You got 6 games. The only loss that I can see happening here, the only one that I can see happening is Miami. That's the only one.
I don't think you're going to get through these next 4 games unscathed. I think they're going to lose one of them. I don't know who it is. I really don't like having to go to Seattle on Thursday on a short week after playing Tampa Bay and Tom Brady. That's going to be a physical game. I think they're going to lose one. So I think they're going to go 3-1 through that and maybe 5. You know, I'm going to say 5-1.
That's what I'm thinking.
Unless for some reason, somehow the seating is locked up and they can rest people against the Cardinals in the final week of the year, then they might lose that one. But if they've got to play every game, I think they might only lose one.
Yeah, I think they only lose one. I think it's this Miami game. I think they can beat Tampa. I think they can beat Seattle on a short week. And I think Washington, that Heineke stuff's going to kind of falter. The Raiders stink, and the Cardinals, they have nothing to play for. They are gutless after last week. They're just a gutless team who lost today to the Chargers by 1 point after leading the game. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I think 5-1. I think going into the season, I had them like 11-6, 10-7. So if they're going to finish 12-5, I think everyone in this chat and everyone who's watching would take that in a heartbeat. And if that means you're the number 2 seed or number 3 seed, you're going to get a home playoff game. That helps. Do the Cowboys got to come to you?
Yep.
Do the Giants got to come to you? I'll take either one of those teams in Santa Clara anytime, any place, anywhere, even if it is in Dallas or New York or San Francisco. I'll take it. It's the one I'm kind of, if we had to travel to Minnesota, that kind of gets a little shaky, but I don't know if I can trust Kirk at a 4:30 start, you know,
no,
8:30 game. But I'm pretty confident this team. This team has what it takes to get deep in the playoffs, defensively, stay healthy, get Armstead back. I really wish we had Emmanuel Mosley, but gosh, you know, Demo's playing good ball for now. Womack's played some pretty good snaps today. Jimmy Ward looks getting a little bit more comfortable in the nickel situation. I think that was the biggest thing today too. The Saints made an effort to keep the Niners in base defense, 3 linebackers, and when Jimmy Ward was in, nothing was getting hit over the top or just getting yardage on them. So if the Niners can stay in nickel defense, they're too hard to beat that way. So going 5-1 the rest of the way, you know, that'd be great. I mean, shoot, no one in this chat should complain about that at all. So
I said it and I'll say it again. I fear nobody in the NFC. I don't care if they got to play at home. I don't care if they got to play on the road. I don't care if they got to play on the goddamn moon. The 49ers are the team that is going to smash people in the mouth, Javi. RJ Ochoa, who runs our Blog and the Boys, our Cowboys community here at SB Nation, says the team that he is terrified to play is the 49ers. And this is the guy that runs the Cowboys website. We kicked their ass at home last year in the playoffs. If Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't throw that dumb interception, that game is 23-7 in like the third or fourth quarter.
That game should have been 31-10, to be honest with you.
Right. I fear nobody. I know the Eagles are good. Great. The Giants have a good record. The Vikings, bring it on. And if you got to come to San Francisco in the playoffs, good luck. Good luck scoring a touchdown, let alone winning the game.
The Niners, you know, for all the Levi's talk, you know, people when it first opened didn't have an atmosphere. That's a good home field advantage. It gets loud in there now.
Yep.
Fans are excited. The team is winning. They're good. And to kind of rephrase my statement from earlier, I don't want to play Philly in January. I just don't. I'm from there. I'm from the East Coast. I've been to Lincoln Financial Field for a playoff game. That place is different. That is a place where it could get real crazy. That's a good offensive line. Jalen Hurts has weapons. That is a game that makes, me kind of pause like, okay. All right, I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit. But if we got to go anywhere else, I think the Niners will be just fine.
I agree. It'd be tough. Like I said, doesn't mean other teams aren't good. But you're at if you're asking me if I'm afraid of anybody, no. And by the way, the fans in Philly are just as likely to turn on their team than they are to get on you. And look, I've seen Jalen Hurts in the playoffs. How was it? He got his ass kicked by the Buccaneers. So at least when the 49ers quarterback stinks in the playoffs, they still win the game. Okay. I've seen this team win a game with Jimmy Garoppolo completing 6 passes. All right. So they can win anywhere. And I get it. Like it'll be tough, but what they do travels. They're tough. Their defense is great. They usually can run the ball in the playoffs, and they're composed. Think of how many people on this team have valid, extensive playoff experience. All of them. Yeah, all of them. And a lot of playoff experience too, not just like from last year. So that matters too, because look at Philly. They don't have as many guys that have the playoff experience like the Niners do.
It's mostly the guys on the offensive line.
Yep.
Mr. Cox and then Brandon Graham. The rest of them have been guys who've kind of been churned on the roster since that Super Bowl run for the Eagles. So, Lane Johnson, solid. Jason Kelce, solid. Fletcher, Brandon Graham, and Gardner Johnson played for the Saints, so he has plenty of playoff experience. But outside of that, it's a lot of guys who haven't made the playoffs very much. Oh, and AJ Brown. AJ Brown's played in the playoffs before, and
he's a very good player. Yeah, but he's a little banged up too.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to say, and I can't even begin to say this name, Alexi Hartovici, and I was so sorry because I know I butchered it on Twitch. Currently on the same average total yards against per game as the Legion of Boom in 2013. That's pretty damn good. And I said at the beginning of the year, this defense needs a nickname. We went with Code Red. I still love it. I think it's good. And I think when we look back, this defense, if the Niners win a Super Bowl, this defense will get a nickname because they're that good. They're a memorable defense.
Absolutely. This is an all-time defense that just needs needs 91 back. Just give me Armstead back and watch what happens with this defense with 91 back in there.
Yeah, you won't be giving up 78% of third and shorts if Eric Armstead is back in the middle playing at an all-pro level, which he was when he got hurt. Yep. That's going to do it for this edition of the show. Again, rate, review, and follow the Niners Nation Podcast Network. If you take the time to leave a review, we will take the time to read it. Shout out again to HOMAGE, hooking me up with the shirt. They can hook you up. Go to their website, HOMAGE. They got the best 49ers gear around. What's up, Javi?
Oh, real quick, Jimmy Garoppolo, 40-19 all-time as a 49ers quarterback. That's better than Joe Montana, just for those QB win guys out there. So 37-22 for Joe. Steve and Jimmy are 40-19.
If you include the playoffs, including playoffs. Yep.
Yeah. Argue with the wall.
I mean, what are you saying?
I'm just messing around.
Why you got to end the show like that? We were all done. We were done. It was a good show. It was a positive show. And you go and just light that cocktail and just throw the Molotov cocktail right at me.
It's all good. But yeah, shout out to Jimmy Garoppolo, man. 40-19. That's impressive. No matter what we think about it, I just want to make sure we throw that in there. 40-19. That's pretty damn good.
And just think about that, what that means for you as a 49er fan. How many good weeks you've gotten because when the 49ers lose, I am miserable the whole week. You got to listen to everybody talk crap about your team. When they win, it's awesome. I'm listening to everybody's podcast when the 49ers win. And look, 40-19 out of 59 weeks, 40 of those weeks have been good. That's amazing.
Yep. Not bad at all.
All right, everybody. Thanks again for hopping in. Javi, thank you for jumping in because Levin Black is a jerk and bailed on me. Traveling for family. What kind of an excuse is that?
I think he's watching Purdue or something.
Purdue's going to get smashed by Michigan.
Oh, my God. That's going to be a disaster.
But anyway, have a good week, everybody.
Take care.